Steve Palazzolo joining us on loan from Pro Football Focus. They're senior analyst and host of PFF NFL podcast. They have put out their rankings, the top receiving core in the NFL. All right, give me the rationale before we do the top five here, Steve.
Yeah, so when it comes to receiving cores, I think in today's NFL, you got to look at the top three receivers. So you have to look at depth, and you also have to look at the tight end. So most of the negative feedback I get is people throwing their best wide receiver duo at me. What about these? What about these two? But it's all about depth, having the three legitimate threats or four legitimate threats in today's NFL. And I think some of these best teams are just really deep when it comes to pass catchers.
But what about the running back who is a pass catcher as well? Did you factor that in?
A little bit here and there. This was this particular write-up was just receivers and tight ends, and running back receivers. They're nice to have, but their receptions in general are a little bit less valuable than receivers and tight ends anyway.
Okay, let's start at number five. Number five on your list, best receiving core is?
It's the Tennessee Titans, and the best part about this is when I first did this list a few months ago, they were in like the late high 20s. Because it was A.J. Brown and then a whole bunch of question marks. But having Julio Jones added to the mix here, as much as I was just preaching depth, if you do have two elite players, it does offset things a little bit. And then Anthony Firkser's he's a really good, shifty, good route running tight end who I think is going to have a big year for the Titans.
Okay, number four on the list is?
Who do we have here? The Buffalo Bills. They're the classic team when it comes to depth because what they've done with Josh Allen is gone from zero receivers to then they added Cole Beasley and they added John Brown. John Brown's out now and it's Emmanuel Sanders. So you've got two good receivers there and then Stephon Diggs. And they've all got pretty distinct roles. Emmanuel Sanders knows how to get open. Cole Beasley gets open from the slot. And then Stephon Diggs can do it all. He can be a deep threat, intermediate threat. So three legitimate receivers. Dawson Knox is a pretty good tight end as well. But I just really love the Bills' depth at wide receiver because that trio is as good as it gets around the NFL.
Where is Stephon Diggs on the individual list of best wide receivers in football?
There's so many good receivers in the NFL right now. So if you say top 10, it's not like a knock on him. But, last year he's probably a top 5 guy. I think year in, year out, you could count on him being a top 10 type of receiver because he does it all well. Route running, the most important thing a receiver can do is get open, right? Pretty simple stuff. But Stephon Diggs is one of the best in the league at doing that.
All right, number 3 on your list.
So it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is where maybe the depth hurt them just a little bit because nobody compares to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Those guys, I don't want to say they're uncoverable. We just saw them get pretty well covered in the Super Bowl, but they are the most dangerous combination. Tyreek Hill, legitimate deep threat. If you just made him a slot receiver, he'd catch 150 passes. And then Travis Kelce, the best receiving tight end in the NFL. The big question is that number 3 spot. Who's the third receiver? Sammy Watkins is out. Mecole Hardman has done some nice things, drafted a couple players at receiver and tight end last year. So that's going to be the big thing for the Chiefs is having that third option emerge. And that's what really did hurt them in the Super Bowl is not having a third receiver when the defense was just focused on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
Well, it also hurt they didn't have a good offensive line in the Super Bowl.
Also that too.
All right. And that line is so much better. Where does Kansas City's line rank among other NFL teams right now going into camp?
So they're in the top 10. I think I had them 7th in our offensive line rankings. And let's not have revisionist history here. The 2020 Kansas City Chiefs had a good offensive line. The 2020 Super Bowl Chiefs had a terrible offensive line because they all got hurt and they moved Mike Remmers from right tackle to left tackle. The Chiefs have had a good offensive line in all 3 years that Patrick Mahomes has been starter. It just completely fell apart in that one game, and they've done a really good job of adding depth and good starters in this offseason.
All right, number 2 on your list of best receiving cores.
So I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys, another team that the 3 deep at receiver is just incredible. Amari Cooper is a legitimate number 1, excellent route runner, gets open at the short and intermediate level really well, add CeeDee Lamb to the mix, and then Michael Gallup. So Michael Gallup has been a really good number 2 during his time there. CeeDee Lamb has a chance to be another number 1. So Amari Cooper is a 1, CeeDee Lamb is a 1, Gallup is a 2. That trio is excellent. I think we're going to see CeeDee Lamb stealing a whole bunch more targets this year. And I really think the Cowboys, as far as that trio, much like the Bills, is as good as it gets around the NFL.
Where's the Cowboys defense rank?
Now that is a tough question because last year they were horrible. It was a new system, a new scheme. You could tell they were all over the place. busted coverages like crazy. Having Dan Quinn come in should handle some of that. It's a simpler system, but there's no way you could say that they project to be a top half of the league defense just because they just haven't done it the last couple of years. So I'd say bottom half of the league defense, where maybe there's a little bit more stability with Dan Quinn coming in with a simpler scheme based off what they played with last year.
So number one on your list, the team that has the best core of receivers
has to be the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? I mean, this is ridiculous with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, that trio. Even Antonio Brown at this point in his career, we saw what he did. I love Scotty Miller, even though he has a very specific role. Just run deep, Scotty. Go run 4-2 down the field. Tommy hits him down the field all the time. And then the tight ends, Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard coming back off injury, Cameron Brate. There's nothing in the league like it. And we saw last year, even when guys got hurt, O.J. Howard got hurt, Antonio Brown missed a playoff game, Mike Evans missed time, they had enough depth to make up for it. And again, that is how you win in today's NFL. You stretch the field with guys who are difficult to cover. If you're a defense, how do you handle all of those players? How do you handle and cover all of those receivers and tight ends? It's really difficult to do.
The Bucs offense or defense ranked higher around the league?
I'd say definitely the offense. I thought the defense was good last year. Again, let's not completely overrate that one performance in the Super Bowl. They were awesome in the Super Bowl. They had other performances like that last year, but they were good, not great. The offense in Tampa Bay, though, especially after the bye last week, they were great, and they have a potential to be great once again.
The bottom two receiving cores in the NFL.
So the Detroit Lions have to be down there because we just, they've overhauled everything. Tyrell Williams looks like their number one. He's a good player, but he's a 2 or a 3 type of receiver. And then the Houston Texans, especially Brandon Cooks, rumored to maybe be on the trading block. He's their only legitimate threat. So they have a whole bunch of solid threats, but Texans, Lions, they're not scaring anybody with their receivers and tight ends at this point.
Would you advise the Texans to trade Deshaun Watson?
I think at this point they might have to. I wouldn't really advise it. I mean, I don't know what's happening off the field, obviously, and I don't even know what's happening with their relationship. If they could mend the relationship, I would keep Deshaun Watson. I mean, he is, as a player, a top 5, top 3 asset in the NFL right now as far as what he's going to bring from a value standpoint on the field. So if you can keep him around, I think that's the best option. If not, you better get 3, 4, 5 first rounders for him because your whole team is starting to get overhauled, which already looks like it's happening in Houston anyway.
If you were going to make the call for the New Orleans Saints quarterback position, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill.
If Michael Thomas is healthy, when he's on the field, I would always lean Jameis. I'm a Jameis guy. I think he's got some volatility to his game that you can harness and you can move the ball and you just have to deal with some turnovers and all that stuff. I'm scared. I mean, who are the worst receiving corps? If I take Michael Thomas out of the equation, the Saints are the worst. They're now 32 if Michael Thomas is hurt for an extended period of time. And because of that, I might lean Taysom Hill. I might say, you know what? We're going to run the ball a ton. Taysom Hill is going to be a run threat. He's going to carry the ball 10 to 12 times a game. That might be the only way the Saints can win because it's Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith and Adam Troutman. That's their group of playmakers. They might need to be a run-first type of team with Taysom Hill.
Always great to talk to you, Steve. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Steve Palazzolo, the Pro Football Focus senior analyst, host of PFF NFL podcast.